Good afternoon, WNOV family. This is Will Martin, your host for The Difference. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to talk about Black History Month, but for a little bit, we're going to talk much more on the scale of Wisconsin and Milwaukee. And I hope that you come and join us in the conversation today. You can call in at 414-444-5250 for The Difference. Again, I'm Will Martin, your host. And I wanted to start off, Keon, by asking you, how many people you think have served in the legislature since Wisconsin got started?
Oh Lord, I wouldn't even try to guess that number. When did the legislature get started?
So 1848, we became a state. So how many people you think?
I wouldn't. I'm not even gonna play the game to guess. Would you
Not
just
even
school
gonna
me?
play the
School
game?
me? No.
Okay, Carvey, how many you think? No idea. Okay, well, I'm here to tell you that it is, because I have it in front of me here, right? So 5,650 people have served in the legislature. Okay, 5,650 people have served in the legislature since Wisconsin became a state.
Let me ask you this: how many of them were black?
Oh, now see, there you go. You are playing the
Oh
game,
yeah,
man.
No. I know that's not even
There
the
we
game.
go.
That's
So,
just
so we were going. That's where we were going, right?
Okay.
So how many people do you think? How many of those 5,650 elected officials in the legislature since we started? How many of those you think were black?
State legislature,
State legislators, state senate, and state assembly.
So state senate,
state senate, and state assembly.
I tend to know because a family member of mine, I believe, was the first in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So that would be
4
senators, maybe 4 or 5 senators.
Okay.
I'm thinking for state assembly, based on what I know from my time, man. Let me go all together, Senate and state assembly. Let me say 11 or 12.
Okay. Well, now, Carvey, what's your guess?
I'd say
7, and you say?
I said 11 or 12 because I know in the last 8 years I've known a few.
Okay, well then we're making a little bit more progress than y'all are thinking about. So it turns out that there have been 33 black legislators in the history of Wisconsin.
So do you know exactly how many senators?
No, I do not know exactly how many. But I can find that out. It's in the. But this is one of the things I want to talk about today because we're in Black History Month.
Okay,
right? We're halfway through the month, more than halfway through the month, right? And so we always talk about, getting the vote nationally, right? All the stuff when we talk about Eyes on the Prize and all these other documentaries, it's always about, what we did nationally.
Right.
But, I'm kind of tired of talking about nationally. What do we do right here?
Right here locally.
Okay. Yeah. What do we do right here in Wisconsin? So, did you know, if you think about all these states, right? All the Midwestern states.
Okay.
Where do you think we rank in terms of getting the right to vote?
School me. I learn with the audience.
Okay, there we go. So look, Carvey, what do you think?
no clue.
Okay, all right. Okay, so look, here's the thing that's fascinating about this state that we live in, right?
And what's great about that is you got 3 generations in here. You, me, and Carvey.
There we go.
So
there we go.
I'm 47. He's a young man,
and I'm just here.
You seasoned. Yeah. So okay.
Right. So okay. So of all the Midwestern states, proud to say that Wisconsin was the very first state in the Midwest to grant the right to vote to black folk.
Dig it.
Okay.
First.
Now, the very first one in all the Midwest.
Okay.
To actually be the one to grant voting rights to us. Okay. Yeah. In fact, there we're going. There we go. See, you guys are good for this conversation.
Professor Martin.
There we go. We can't say Dr. Martin because that just would be a lie. So, but you start looking at when did we get this vote, and we talk so much about the 1960s, and we kind of forget about the 1860s, right?
Before Reconstruction.
Yeah, right. As it's coming in, right? As it's just getting started, the wars.
Because we were there, then they removed us.
There we go. So we talk so much about the Underground Railroad, all those sorts of things that came through Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we talk about Joshua Glover, right?
Mm-hmm.
And folks know Joshua Glover was a fugitive from the Fugitive Slave Act,
Yeah.
right? And he was in jail,
Yeah.
right? I lived down in Racine,
Dig it.
and that's where he was. And they brought him up here, put him in jail, and the folk came and broke him out of jail, right?
Right. No, there's a mural under the highway.
There's a mural under the highway, and there's stuff in Racine as well, all about. That's right, all about Joshua Glover.
Another good fact: if you're on the Holden Street Bridge,
the
last street before Holden, that last street before the bridge is Glover.
Okay, there we go.
I believe Daniel Holden may have been his attorney.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So what ends up happening is you get a bunch of these people who were abolitionists, right? So we talk about the Republican Party gets started right here in Wisconsin,
okay,
in Fond du Lac, and what do they run on? It's all about equality, right? They run and they're trying to end slavery,
okay,
right? So that becomes their platform. Brand new party starts in Wisconsin, right? Okay. Brand new party starts in Wisconsin in 1854. We had just become a state in 1848.
Ooh! Fun fact.
Okay, come on with it.
After they broke Joshua Glover out,
mm-hmm.
What do they call them? The people that broke him out, the liberal white folks. What did they call them?
Well, these would have been the abolitionists, right?
Abolitionists, right? Went up to Ripon.
They went up to Ripon
and started the
this is all Party. Part of the Republican Party.
This is the start.
This is the start, right?
Got you.
There's a guy named Sherman Booth, right? And he was one of these abolitionists. Had a newspaper, he was, etc. So this guy, Sherman Booth
Street.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So Booth ends up, and where this all is going is, how did we get the vote in Wisconsin, right?
Okay.
It's all of these people are the same folks who end up working to help us get the vote, right? So 1848, we become a state. You can't become a state without a state constitution, right? So do you know that in the original state constitution, they talked about white specifically as being able to vote?
Well, that would have been my assumption.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So also the word male was also in.
Oh, white males.
So again, so that your women and people of color were not able to vote immediately, right?
Okay.
They couldn't settle on it. They could not all agree. People came to they had a state convention to create the state of Wisconsin. Okay. Some people who showed up there said, hey, we want everybody to be able to vote. What they meant was all men,
gotcha.
Including the colored men, all
gotcha.
Men. They did not mean the women, right?
Gotcha.
So somebody decided to be funny and said, well, if you're going to push it to this extent to let colored people vote, that you got to just strike the word male as well, thinking it's as absurd to let the women vote as it would be to let the black folk vote, right? And again, at this time, you've got the Native Americans in this state as well. And they weren't citizens, right?
Of course.
Right. So they're not treated as citizens at this point, right?
So wait a minute, they're not treated as citizens, but okay.
So right. So you come in and it's like, all right, well, we create this state. We're not counting these other folks over here, right? So the interesting thing is they end up having this debate back and forth. They can't make a decision about whether or not we should be allowed to vote. So they compromise and decide if at any time the legislature agrees that black folks can vote, they can pass the law, but they have to go to a referendum for the people of Wisconsin to agree. Now, when that referendum happened?
What year was that?
Okay, so now we became a state in 1848, right?
Right.
Okay, 1849.
The next year.
So right immediately they went ahead and had the vote. And which way do you think the vote went?
Listening.
Okay, all right.
Listening.
So look, so they had the vote, and first of all, guess how many people voted?
How many?
Whole state. Right, whole state.
The entire state.
Entire state.
What was the population?
Oh, well, not much.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, not much.
How many people voted?
So there we go. Remember now, the only people who could vote at this point are white men. In 1849, right? Okay. That's the only people that could vote. So, Kari, how many people you think voted on this referendum to decide if we could, if black folk could vote? Okay. All right. How many do you think, man? Keon, what do you think was the total number of people who voted in Wisconsin? Total number of white men who voted on whether or not we could.
Did you say 100? 18 what?
This is 1849, 1 year after it became a state.
I'm gonna go for 100. I'm gonna round it over.
Okay. All right. So you're just gonna sit right
I'm
there.
gonna sit right there because I'm trying to see
right there with Carvey.
Because then I'm trying to think of how many people could read to vote back then. Even
Nobody said you had to read back then.
Oh, well, right. Got you.
You just got to be able to market, right? Okay. So anyway, it ends up being 9,340 people vote. Okay. 9,340 people vote, right? This is all over the state. This is people deciding whether or not Black folk should be allowed to vote in the state of Wisconsin. Black men, right?
Gotcha.
Okay. So what percentage of the vote do you think was forced? First of all, you think we won the vote or we lost the vote?
I'm gonna say we lost the vote.
Okay. What do you think, Garvey?
I mean, they cheat us every way.
Every which way but lose.
So, yeah, we lost.
Okay. You both think that we lost the vote.
Well, no, I'm gonna say, you know why I'm gonna say we won? Because right after slavery, there was a lot of folks that took office around the country, but then after Reconstruction, they took the vote from us again.
Okay.
So we did get the vote maybe.
Okay.
That time.
All right. So 1849, they hold this referendum all over the state. White men get together and vote. 9,340 vote.
Okay.
Okay. The vote goes in our favor by 56% of the vote.
Gotcha.
Overwhelmingly, we get a vote, which would have been a landslide today, right? If you get 56% of the vote any kind of time, you'd have a landslide going on, right? So it ends up being that we get the right to vote. You said that it gets taken away?
After Reconstruction.
Okay. Well, look, it actually got it taken away immediately.
Oh, immediately.
They voted,
Uh-huh.
right? Okay, well,
we got it. Then they took it away.
But I told you there's only 9,340 people, right? 9,340 people voted. Well, it's a whole lot more people than that in the state of Wisconsin at statehood, right?
Right.
So they came back and the people who counted the vote, check this out. So the people who counted the vote, they came up and decided that all the people who did not vote at all the people who abstained from voting, those must be no votes. So instead of counting all the people the way we do, right? So if you show up, look, if 3 of us show up to vote and 2 of the 3 vote one way and the other one votes the other way, the 2 out of the 3 win, right?
Right.
No, they counted, and because this is early in the state's history, they counted it and they were like, well, all the other people who didn't vote, they must have not been in favor, so they can come. So therefore, we don't count all those as no's. And so as a result, we won the election to get the vote, and then ended up losing the ability because of that.
Now, wait a minute. Was that just for our right to vote, or was that for
our right?
Did they use that for everything voted on?
Oh, no.
They just used that for that one.
Well, they didn't know what to do. And so, they end up getting into this issue. And so they were like, well, this is a referendum. And of course, we'd only been a state for 1 year. So they end up being like, well, no, it's got to be out of everybody. Okay. Guess how long it is before we have the ability to show up and vote?
Ability to vote?
Yeah. Okay. So now we had the referendum.
You're talking about 67, 60.
Okay. All right.
19, you're not talking about 1967.
No. I'm just asking you. When do you think we actually got the ability in Wisconsin then?
Well, okay, 67 was the Voter Rights Act, so that's the ability to vote without being played upon.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you 30s, 40s.
Okay. All right. What do you think, Carl?
1930s, 40s.
I'm sorry, I
No.
wasn't.
When do you think? So we got through the referendum, won the referendum, then we lost the referendum, right? When do you think we actually got the ability to go back to voting again?
I want to say, what about like 1940s, 30.
Okay, so both of you were
Say
thinking like,
40s,
okay,
30s.
when we get so 100 years later, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, life works out much better.
Really?
Yeah, works out much
20s?
better. So actually, in the state of Wisconsin, they end up going to Supreme Court. Supreme Court ends up agreeing that we have the ability to vote, and they take the case in 1865. This is before, all the first civil rights acts.
1865.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's the first civil rights acts are all the Reconstruction Acts, right?
Okay.
After the Civil War, right? Well, this is as the Civil War is
So
ending.
16 years later.
So we end up like just after the war, he comes in and he goes to vote. Now, remember we talked about those abolitionists
Yes.
and the folks who broke Glover out and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, those folks got behind a man named Ezekiel Gillespie.
Oh, that's Lena's guy right
Okay.
there. Yeah.
All right. Well, Lena is very intelligent to bring up Ezekiel Gillespie.
Oh, bring
Right.
up. Oh,
So,
God.
so you're right. She's very intelligent. Now, look, if you are listening to this show and you want to add to this, you feel free to get a chance to call in 414-444-5250. That's 414-444-5250. But we're breaking down how we got the vote here in Wisconsin, right? We always talk about the national, but a man named Ezekiel Gillespie, he ended up working with an abolitionist. He went to go vote. And guess where he went to go vote?
Where do you go vote?
Right here in Milwaukee.
Yes, I see.
Right?
Here.
He went right here in Milwaukee to go vote. And when he presented himself to vote, they told him he could not vote because he was black. So he sued. And they knew what they were going to tell him when he got there.
Right.
Right. So he had some advocates with him, and they immediately turned around and put in the lawsuit. They go from that. It goes all the way up to the Supreme Court of the state. And the Supreme Court of the state says, hey, you've had the right to vote all the way back to that referendum that happened in 1849. All that time. And so that was the final acknowledgement that we had the right. So we literally got it right as the war was ending.
Gillespie versus Palmer.
There you go. And Gillespie is the one who got us in. So if you don't know Ezekiel Gillespie as a black Milwaukeean or as a Milwaukeean in general, or as a Wisconsinite in general, Ezekiel Gillespie is somebody you need to know.
Can I give him a little bit on Ezekiel Gillespie?
Please, come on with Ezekiel.
Yeah, 1818, he was born a slave in Canton, Mississippi, or Greene County, Tennessee.
I tend to believe it was in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Well, I'm going to take Canton because that's Holmes County.
Okay, and I'm going to take Tennessee.
That's 10 miles from my folks, so we'll take either one. Probably the son of African-American slave, and her European-American slave owner says as a young man, he purchased his own freedom for $800.
Yep.
I traveled to Indiana and soon moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he sold groceries and then worked as a railroad porter. He quickly became a leader in the African-American community. He operated a local branch of the Underground Railroad, pushed Richard Allen to open Wisconsin's first African-American church.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was the first AME church.
Yep. Richard Allen. Yep.
Yep. And he also played a role in the Joshua Glover controversy in
Mm-hmm.
1865. At the insistence of Sherman Booth, Gillespie attempted to vote. He was denied a ballot, so he sued the Board of Elections. Gillespie versus Palmer went all the way to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The justice of the court sided with Gillespie in his argument that Wisconsin voters had voted in favor of male African-American suffrage in an 1849 referendum, as you spoke of, and he was the first voter in Wisconsin.
Right. The first black voter.
Mhm.
The first black voter.
And then he moved to Chicago later. He passed away in 1892.
But they brought his body back.
And he is at Forest Home Cemetery on the south side.
Right here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, okay.
And it came full circle. But he is literally one of our very first civil rights activists. He's the reason why we have the vote and why we've had it for so long right here in Wisconsin.
Dig it. And I wonder if that was St. Mark's AME Church.
Yeah. Oh, wait. We're going to talk about St. Mark's a little bit more because there's
Okay.
another connection back to St. Mark's.
Oh, go ahead with yourself. Okay.
There we go. So we're going to break it all down for people today. So we will come right back to the difference with Will Martin right after this break. Difference, and that was a musical interlude from the great Ray Charles.
Yes, yeah.
And we're talking over here about Black History Month and trying to break it down for what it means for us right here in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin as a whole. So, Keon, when do you think we actually started getting Black elected officials then? If we got the vote in 1865, when do you think we actually started getting Black folk in office?
Well, I was a little ahead of you. I think I'm gonna say about 1907, maybe.
Okay, well, you know what? We're going to go back a little bit further
A little
than
bit
that.
further.
A little bit further than that.
Oh, I keep forgetting about
We
before Reconstruction.
Yeah, okay. So we got some people who took office. So let's talk. We actually have some folks in the list here. Okay, a man named P.D. Thomas.
P.D. Thomas.
P.D. Thomas. His name was Peter.
Okay.
Peter D. Thomas. Okay, Peter D. Thomas. He was one of the very first Black elected officials. He was elected by a majority white community. Guess what community that was?
Which one was that?
He was actually elected countywide in Racine County.
Racine County.
Racine
Well, makes
County.
sense.
Okay. Well, now,
Makes sense.
what do you think the office was that he was elected to?
Doggone gets talk to me.
Okay.
In Racine County.
So, Carvey, what do you think now Carvey's like, I'm out. So the office that he was in, of all the things that we run for countywide office, guess what the man ended up being?
What do you run for?
Coroner.
Oh, the county coroner.
He became the county coroner.
Well, we had experience in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, picking up after the war.
There we go.
Yeah,
we
we
go.
had experience in that.
So he ends up going in, and there's some dispute about when it was, but some records show that it may have been as far back as the 1880s that he was actually in office.
So as a coroner, wait a minute now. So as a coroner back then,
yeah.
Did you have to have a medical license?
Well, no.
Like now, the coroner is the medical examiner.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly right today.
Because they're doctors. They
we've professionalized everything now, right?
So back then, it was kind of like pick up the body.
And somebody needs to sign that so and so is actually dead. Right?
Okay,
you need a record of somebody actually
pick up
died,
witness
right?
and sign.
There we go. So he ends up becoming one of the very first Black elected officials, and he ends up winning in Racine County, right? Okay. So it could be as early as the 1880s. Like I said, there's some dispute about exactly when he was in office there, right? So then James Parrish. Okay. So it's kind of close to Keith Parrish's name, right?
Parrish.
There we go. So James Parrish ends up in office. Okay. And he becomes an alderman. All right. Okay. Another Black elected official.
Where was that at?
Okay. So where you think? Where you think he was at?
So you talk about Racine County, so they're coming north.
Okay. All right.
So, well, they passed Kenosha, Racine, so I'm not going to guess that one. Where was that?
Okay. So of all the places, this is a city in Wisconsin that he became an alder for.
Okay. I'm just coming up the highway, so I'm not going
you not
they've
going
already passed Kenosha.
There we go.
So
past
we're
Kenosha.
Racine.
There we go.
And I'm trying to see where.
I'm gonna tell you, if you name cities for the rest of the hour, you would not get it.
Is it north of Milwaukee?
Always north of Milwaukee.
Really?
Always north.
Oh, so where is it at?
Man, this is like, I want people to understand. James Parrish becomes an alder. Okay, becomes an alderman for the city of Waupaca. Waupaca.
We're not up there now, are we?
Well, you know what? Leroy Butler, he had a dealership up there. I don't know if he still got it.
He had one in Kewaskum too.
There we
Butler
go.
is a little different.
Yeah. There we go.
No, I'm thinking about not Leroy.
We think about like Reggie White or somebody.
The smiley guy.
The smiley guy.
I can't think his name right now.
So anyway, he ends up an alderman, James Parrish. Okay. Ends up in Waupaca, in the city of Waupaca. He becomes an alderman and he gets elected. And the man it's not just a fluke. The man served for 3 consecutive terms as an alderman there in a majority, almost all white community. He gets elected. Okay. So then we talk about J.B. Perkins. Okay. So J.B. Perkins, he ends up being the justice of the peace. Okay. So Now, where do you think this man was elected to be the justice of the peace
You
here in
blew me
Wisconsin?
already. I
Right?
can't even guess because you already done went way north,
Mm-hmm.
farther than I would have thought.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna guess.
Not
No,
going
I'm
there,
not
right?
gonna
Not
guess.
going
I'm gonna
there.
learn.
I know Carvey's already checked out on. He's not guessing anymore, right? So
I'm amazed.
yeah. So I mean, this is the stuff we don't know, right? We always look at this national, and we know what happened in the South, but people don't ask the question, what were all these states doing? You know, what was Wisconsin doing? We all live here. So what was Wisconsin doing during all this time, right? So it turns out J.B. Perkins ends up being elected as Justice of the Peace in 1904.
Okay, justice of the peace.
Justice of the Peace, 1904. Okay. Which city do you think he was in?
I've told you I'm not gonna do that.
Not going to do that. Not going to do that.
You
Well, let
blew
me
me
tell you,
already.
because this one will blow you. This one will blow
And
your
that was
mind.
3 years before our first black state assembly.
There we go. So this man gets elected again in an almost all white community.
Almost all white.
Almost all white community, right? City of La Crosse.
Lacrosse.
Was in La Crosse.
Really?
Yeah. And it's interesting because La Crosse is where Julian Bradley, he grew up part of the time in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And Julian Bradley today is the first Black Republican state senator for the state of Wisconsin.
Okay.
So he grew up over there. But yeah, we ended up getting the first Black Justice of the Peace is J.B. Perkins, who was elected in 1904 for La Crosse.
Do you know where J.B. Perkins was from? Was he from a town up there? Did he come north from Canada?
Yeah.
Did he come south from Canada, or did he come north from south?
Man, I got you. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We have to find out a
But
little
then you
bit
just
more.
said Bradley was raised in La Crosse.
Yeah, he was
So-
raised in
See,
so,
and the thing about it is, what you're saying is, you know, you're wondering what was going on in Wisconsin. A lot of people don't even realize Black folks were here.
right. And
That-
a lot of
that
people think we got
scatter.
here after World War II. And a lot of us did,
Yeah.
but a lot of us didn't.
Yeah.
We got
During-
roots that go back. We got
during
Black
the
folk that go
industrial
back
piece.
all the way back to the founding of the state. There were Black people here.
Mhm.
And so not you know, all the stuff that we see about after the Great Migration and all the people coming after World War II, that's not all of us. Some of these people were pioneers and they were already here. So, you know, notice now, all these places we talked about, it's only been one person from Milwaukee so far.
And you know, factual about that is, you know, why we're thinking about it, because DeSable
Yeah.
came from elsewhere and came through and down to Chicago to found Chicago.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
we were traveling.
Yeah, exactly. And we
yeah,
were
from other
doing
countries.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly right. So, you know, a lot of this we were already doing. And so I think we just have forgotten some of the history of where we are.
Or we're never told.
There we go.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, you know, so now we got to make sure WNOV is telling people how it really is, right?
Indeed.
So making sure. So, okay. So you made this reference to 1907, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So 1907, we end up with our first Black legislator, right?
Lucian.
So we talked about earlier, there's been, that's 5,650, right?
Mhm.
5,650 legislators have served in either the state assembly or the state senate since the founding of this state.
Mhm.
33 have been Black.
Okay.
Who was the first Black legislator?
Lucian H. Palmer.
That's the guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the guy.
You already got me ready.
There you go. There we go. There we go. So we get you a little primer during the breaks, right? So Lucian Palmer ends up being the very first Black legislator for the state of Wisconsin. And where did he serve?
I was going to ask you, what city did he serve?
So he's from Milwaukee, right?
Okay.
He ends up serving Milwaukee. But check this out. We're so used to, in our lifetimes,
Mhm.
Black legislators, they represent Black folk, right? Majority Black districts. Well, 1906 was the election. 1906, there are no Black majority
No,
districts here, right?
No.
Okay. So he ends up serving in the legislature. And get this, the man was not serving the poorest district in the state. He was serving the richest part of Milwaukee. He had the downtown. You know, the third ward, all that stuff that's booming. Even in that time, this was the richest part of Milwaukee, and he was the person who won. Okay. Now, which party do you think he ran on?
Well, back then, it was kind of the switcheroo. So what we would call the Democratic Party of today was the Republican Party.
There you go. So
because the Republicans broke Joshua,
abolitionists
broke Joshua Glover out.
There we go.
Went up to Ripon and started the Republican
There we
Party.
go. So we really literally have the very first black legislator was actually a Republican.
Yeah.
And he served, and they wrote about him, and the best the newspaper could say after he won was that it was a fluke. They could not take it they couldn't take it seriously, right? So the newspaper writes, it's a fluke, right? So check this out. He ends up winning. What do you think was the margin? How many votes do you think he won by?
Not gonna do that because you already got me about the number, because I'm still trying to figure out what the census
Oh
was.
yeah, exactly. Okay. So he is in, he's in a assembly district.
Okay.
And he ends up winning his election by 67 votes. 67. And they were shook up. They couldn't understand how this man won this election.
Do you know what the vote count? I mean, how many voted?
So he got 1,668 votes. He got 1,668 votes.
Okay.
His Democratic opponent, was actually an attorney, and he ended up when he won, it was 1668 for him versus the Democratic incumbent was named Thomas Ramsey, and he only got 1,601 votes.
So roughly 3,200
for the whole vote.
People for the whole.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he actually won by 67 votes.
Okay.
Becomes the first black elected legislator.
And that's
right?
crazy because that's 3,200 votes, 3,250 votes out of 9,000 in the state.
Well,
no,
that earlier period.
That's
only the people who just showed up, and it was only the black males right then, right? So, and by 1907, by 1906, when they actually had the election, women still could not vote. Right. Okay. So we're still talking about men only, and he ends up winning against a Democrat incumbent. A white Democrat incumbent was in office, right? And so they end up writing in a weekly newspaper about, they call it race recognition at last, when Lucian Palmer wins. And the magazine was called, the newspaper was called the Wisconsin Weekly Advocate. And do you want to guess what kind of publication that was?
What was it?
It was one of the first black newspapers in the state of Wisconsin. Yes, one of the first black newspapers. So once again, we had businesses, right? We were successful in doing these things, right? So there was a successful group of black folk living here, right? So we forget our history in the process, right? Okay, so he ends up winning, and get this. So he had the third ward. They called it the richest district in the state.
In the state.
He had the third ward, the fourth ward, and the seventh ward of the city. Now, the fourth ward is Walker's Point.
Dig it.
Okay. And the third ward, you know where the third ward is, right? Third ward is, when you go downtown to Summerfest grounds, all that stuff, where Water Street, Water Street is, all that stuff. That's all down there in that third ward, right? When you get down to Milwaukee Public Market, right? Oh, that's all third ward, right? That was
by the lake south, right by the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so they literally call it at that time the richest district in the state of Wisconsin.
The Market Exchange area.
All that stuff, right? All that stuff. So he ends up, I want people to know, the first black legislator. He represented the richest district in the state, right? Now, when we start talking about, this man won this on merit. He went out and he actually was able, and one of the people who supported him was William Green, and he was a prominent black lawyer right here, right at the turn of the century. So all this stuff about we don't have we don't have doctors, lawyers, all this other stuff, nonsense,
Right.
right? We got all that stuff going on. But the guy gets in the office, and he is actually, check this out. They try to get his white landlord to evict him because now he won, right?
Right.
So they don't, some of these people don't want him there. So they try to get his white landlord to evict him from his place. And so he refused to be outdone by it. So he just worked out his situation, right? But he went right on ahead, and it's actually Lucian Palmer who ends up having the first black speaker to come to speak before the assembly, to come talk about race issues, right? To come talk about racial equality.
Who was that?
Okay, so they don't actually name the speaker, but it was him as the legislator, and he got them to agree to listen to this speaker.
Okay.
The whole of the assembly, right? And you've been up there, right? It's one of the most beautiful halls, right? They've got this beautiful chamber.
Yeah.
That's where the governor gives his state of the state address and all that, right? So he does all that. He ends up being they talked about him as a fluke, right?
Okay.
He ends up, by the time he is done, with them saying that he is one of the most effective legislators, because he's even getting his peers to vote bills down that he doesn't want to see come through, right?
Figure.
So one guy's making all this difference as the first person going in, right? And then we end up going 36 years before there's another one in office. And so how long do you think, by the time we get back in here,
45.
now we're coming back. Now, yeah, there we go. Now we're starting to come back in, and now it switches to Democrat. Right now we're talking about FDR, right?
Okay.
So after FDR, a lot of people end up switching parties after the Great Depression, right? And so people flip over. And so now we got, and this is when we start to see, names that become much more familiar, right? We're having one at a time that are coming in. And so, like you said, okay, November 1944. So the war is still going. And Simmons ends up winning. And again, he beats an incumbent to take a seat.
Who's incumbent?
So they talk about his incumbent, Markey. Philip Markey was the incumbent. And he actually beat him. So in both these cases now, they're beating folks who had already won. And they actually take him out.
Huh.
Right? And so he ends up serving. And he's only the second black legislator. So we went from 1907 to literally having to wait until 1945 when he gets in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Coggs comes.
10 years later, we get 3.
Mm-hmm. And then they start to multiply, right?
Cecil B. Brown Jr., Isaac Coggs, and Walton Bryan Stewart.
And we know who Isaac Coggs is.
Yes.
Right. This is the foundation of the dynasty, right?
Yes.
So he ends up coming in, and this is the beginning of our being able to now get multiple members into the assembly, right?
Yeah.
And so this is and then his wife takes the seat later as well, Elizabeth Coggs.
Yeah, it looks like what 55 he took the seat, and then 59 he became the first black legislator to chair a legislative committee.
There we go.
And then 6 years after that, 1965, Lloyd Barbie.
Yep.
Representative Lloyd. What year did Lloyd Barbie get in?
Man, I'm telling you, and Barbie,
Wow.
he ends up, again, we talk about now we start getting these names that we recognize as civil rights leaders here.
Then it starts happening because then Lloyd Barbie gets in there somewhere in the 73.
Yep.
Monroe Swan becomes the first black senator.
Yeah,
then
exactly.
Marsha takes the seat in 77. Huh.
And Monroe ends up serving, as you say, this first black senator, the first black state senator. And we have a black senator today.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly, in terms of Lena just left her seat, Lena Taylor, she just left her seat. Keisha Myers is running for that seat. Representative
We
Myers.
got Latasha,
Latanya Johnson is
but
in
Gary
right
George
now.
took it in.
Exactly. Exactly. So those folks, but then you get as they say, talking about so Bob Turner, okay, Robert Turner. So Robert Turner ends up being he, I believe, becomes the first minority leader, the first minority lead for a state party.
So before you get off the senators, 'cause
Mhm.
I guess I said I knew of 4 guaranteed,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize I do know more. So the senators. So we've had
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the history. So that was Julian Bradley.
Yep. And Julian's currently still serving.
Yep. Monroe Swan, Spencer Coggs, Gary George, Latanya Johnson, Nakia Harris Dodd, Gwen Moore, who
Yeah.
went on to become our congresswoman.
Yep. And still
And Lena C. Taylor.
there we go.
Yeah.
And to this day, you've got you've got these folks that are still in office, still making a difference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Robert Turner. So a lot of people who are listening right now may or may not know, they may not know Turner, but Turner, he actually represented Racine. His district was down there.
This is amazing.
It is. So, there's so much of our history that we don't recognize. And, it's just important that folks get a chance to hear. We got a lot more going on for our history than just Milwaukee.
Because now I got the list of black representatives.
Yep.
1907 to 1923.
Mhm.
I mean, 2023.
Yep.
See, we got alphabetical now by session. It was Palmer in 1907. Then Simmons in 45. Coggs in 53.
Yep.
He's then the 3-1. Coggs was actually 53.
Mhm.
And in 55, Brown, Coggs, and Stewart. 1963, late Nathan.
Yeah.
Lathan. Then in 65, there was Lloyd Barbie. Then Senator Swan in 73. Gary George in 81.
Yeah.
Gary George and Gwen Moore and George in 93. Then Cog, George, and Moore. We started taking it in 2003.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Taylor,
So it's really, it has become, and then, this is the other thing is you look in 2019, Kaylin Haywood, and how he becomes the youngest black elected official, the youngest black legislator ever to be elected in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
19 years old.
Right.
19 years old when he joined the assembly.
Then I'm looking at the state representatives from 73. There was Barbie and Ward, and then Coggs and Ward in 77. 81 was Coggs and Williams, and then it was 2 Coggs and Marsha G.S. Coggs and Williams in 83.
Yeah.
What we got here? 89 Coggs and Moore and Williams. Oh, we started taking it. Turner, Moore, Williams. Oh wow, yeah, we started taking it.
Right.
Barbara Tolles and Morris and Riley. Yeah, so we started to take action.
And what's, again, this all starts with Ezekiel Gillespie. Right? So when you bring it all the way back around, you just begin to see it's because of one man stood up and decided we had the right to vote. We had the right to vote. And he ends up going, so one person can make a difference, and he's made a difference now. You figure from 1865 to today in our ability to vote here.
Solid.
Yeah. So, folks, as you think about Black History Month and what's going on with us, let's look back to what happened in Wisconsin, what happened with our own folks right here, and the progress we've made for everyone in this state. You got any closing comments,
Come back
Keon?
after break and close it up.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll come back after a break from The Difference with Will Martin right after this. family. This is Will Martin, and you're listening to The Difference right here on WNOV as we wrap up this show. So I got just a couple more questions for you, Keon.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about all these folks that have made a difference, but you got to have a spiritual home in the process of making the difference.
Dig it.
So we talked about St. Mark's.
St. Mark's AME.
St. Mark's AME, which is
the first AME church, African Methodist Episcopal Church.
Yeah, just down our street, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so now it's literally around the corner.
On Atkinson Avenue.
Right around the corner from here, right? We could walk down there.
Yeah, it was the
Okay.
16th, I believe.
Yeah, so what's interesting is St. Mark's AME is the church where Lucian Palmer was a member. So the very first Black elected legislator comes out of that congregation, right? So a lot of this is about our institutions and being able to pull this all together, right? And so I will tell you, I'm actually going to be speaking again on some of this at 6:00 tonight. And actually at the corner of North and Martin Luther King. And we get a chance to talk about, some of the rest of these elected officials and the differences we've been making, and try to, again, just make sure the community is aware of this heritage that we have, right?
Yeah.
So, in fact, that's what it's called, Celebrating Black Heritage.
Dig it,
So,
dig it.
So any closing thoughts, Keon?
Well,
about, did you learn anything?
So here's I learned a lot, and I'm glad that you asked me to present with you, because I was always told the greatest hosts don't know everything.
Oh no!
So as a host, I get to learn with the audience.
Okay, there we go.
I wasn't going to make a lot of assumptions, and circumstances calls for a phenomenal show today.
Mhm.
Definitely, the information you gave today, I look forward to you giving it more often, and I know you're going to be doing this beyond Black History Month.
That's exactly right, because we got too many awesome leaders in our community, and they're all not in the same field.
Yes.
Right? We got people who are doing incredible things in every field.
Right.
And we just don't tell ourselves the stories of those people often enough. So part of what I'm trying to make sure that we do in the difference is we make sure right?
Indeed.
Make sure we know our own story, right? So that's what we are trying to do. And so I hope that everybody will go, as the pastor used to say back home, tell everybody
Yeah.
to tune in at 3:00 on Mondays. You can hear everything else you hear on a regular basis on the rest of the week. But on Mondays at 3, from 3 to 4, come join me with the difference with Will Martin.
You know what? If you happen to miss it, they can always tune in at WNOV 860 on Facebook and on YouTube.
That's right. And
for
if
the
you miss it,
podcast.
you need to listen to it the next week and bring 2 more people with you.
Tell a friend to tune us in.
That's exactly. That's all right. That's all right. So until next Monday at 3, peace out.